There's a strange kind of innovation that comes out of wartime, the sort that never appears in documentaries or sits behind glass in a museum. It isn't glamorous, it isn't shiny, and it wasn't issued with ceremony. But for the soldiers who depended on it, it was every bit as valuable as a rifle or a pair of boots. It was the kind of invention that kept people alive when the weather, the hunger, and the supply lines turned against them. During World War II, millions of soldiers, partisans, and civilians found themselves in situations where traditional fuel simply didn't exist. Supply convoys were bombed, forests were rain-soaked, villages were picked clean, and anything combustible was rationed or absent entirely. And in the middle of this chaos, a surprisingly powerful solution emerged. A fuel source that wasn't factory-made, wasn't official, and wasn't even considered real equipment. It came from trash, it came from scraps, and it turned into a reliable heat source that quietly shaped daily survival. For soldiers on freezing ridgelines, for resistance fighters hiding in forests, for families living under occupation, having a dependable flame meant far more than comfort. Fire meant warm rations. It meant dry socks. It meant boiled safe water. It meant not waking up with frostbitten toes or respiratory infections that could kill you faster than a bullet. A small flame could be the difference between a day survived and a day lost. And that brings us to the unlikeliest invention of the war. A handmade fuel tablet built from shredded paper, wood shavings, grease, and candle wax. It spread through battalions, field kitchens, and underground networks, not because it was officially issued, but because it simply worked. In many places, it outperformed the fuels soldiers were actually given. This tablet wasn't created in a laboratory or designed by engineers. It was born out of necessity, the kind that forces human beings to look at discarded objects and see possibility. Its earliest versions seemed almost crude, torn-up newspapers mixed with pan grease and squeezed into a tin can. But as the idea spread, people experimented. They refined it. They found the perfect balance of wax for longer burn time, the right density of paper for structure, the ideal shape for airflow. By the middle years of the war, almost every front, from the mountains of Italy to the freezing forests of Belarus to the humid jungles of the Pacific, had its own version. Some called them grease cakes. Others called them field bricks. Some simply refer to them as compressed trash fuel. But whatever the name, they solved a universal problem. How do you create controlled, smokeless heat when everything around you is wet, dangerous, or scarce? The genius of the tablet came from how the ingredients worked together. Paper and tiny wood shavings formed the backbone, a kind of internal skeleton that held the block together so it wouldn't collapse as it burned. The grease and wax were the real fuel, melting slowly into the fibers and releasing energy without producing a tall flame or a plume of smoke. The result was a slow, steady burn, exactly what a soldier needed when cooking inside a dugout or hiding from enemy scouts. And that smokeless quality mattered more than people realize today. In sniper zones, a puff of smoke could be a death sentence. In occupied villages, a flicker of flame could expose a hiding family. In resistance camps deep in the woods, smoke could give away an entire network. These tablets allowed people to heat food, sterilize water, and warm cramped shelters without announcing their presence to the world. Making them was simple enough that even exhausted soldiers could do it after a long march. First, the paper had to be shredded into fine fibrous strands. In the war, this meant ration labels, damaged letters, cardboard packaging, even the linings of supply crates. Today, junk mail, paper bags, or cardboard do the job just as well. Next came the high-energy component, grease or paraffin. In the 1940s, this came from scraping cooking tins, draining leftover fat from pots, or melting down broken candles. Nowadays, you can recreate it by melting cooking oil, wax, or leftover candle scraps. The key was not overheating it, you just needed it liquid enough to soak into the paper fibers. Once the paper was fully saturated, the mixture was pressed tightly into molds. Soldiers often used metal food cans cut into stubs because the rigid walls prevented the mixture from bulging outward. Pressing wasn't optional. It was the secret behind the long burn time. The denser the block, the slower and cleaner it burned. After pressing came drying, the slowest but most important stage. Soldiers dried the blocks near stoves, under tents, on sunny windowsills, even inside coat pockets while marching. When fully dried, the tablets became rock hard, almost like compacted wood. They could be stored for months without spoiling or leaking, and once lit, their value became obvious. In the Italian Alps, where winter storms swallowed entire passes, these tablets turned icy stone huts into livable shelters. In forest hideouts, partisans could prepare hot food without a column of smoke rising above the trees. In the Pacific, where monsoon rains turned firewood into soggy sponges, these tablets burned reliably regardless of weather. They also played a crucial role in water purification, one of the least glamorous but most life-saving tasks of the war. A single tablet could keep a tin mug boiling long enough to sterilize a liter of water. That meant fewer cases of dysentery, cholera, and typhoid diseases that historically kill more soldiers than combat does. And here's the surprising part. The method still works today. Survivalists, bushcrafters, off-grid enthusiasts, even campers can recreate these tablets with modern materials. They store for ages, burn predictably, and outperform wet firewood in almost every environment. When the power goes out or resources run low, a handful of these handmade bricks can provide cooking heat, water sterilization, and emergency warmth. The story of these World War II fuel tablets is more than just military trivia. It's a reminder of how resilient people become when they're forced to adapt. It shows how something as small as a discarded scrap of paper and a spoonful of grease can turn into a tool that helps people endure the harshest conditions imaginable. It speaks to a kind of resourcefulness that we rarely think about today. The ability to create what you need from what you have. Relearning this skill isn't just a way to appreciate the past. It's practical knowledge, the kind that still works when technology fails, when weather turns hostile, or when emergencies hit without warning. And it keeps alive a lesson that generations before us understood instinctively. Nothing is truly useless, not if you know how to transform it. If you want more forgotten survival skills, more deep dive history, and more practical techniques revived from the past, make sure to subscribe to Forgotten Survival and share this video with someone who loves learning. The old tricks that still work better than modern ones